In a hotel, a man encountered a beautiful woman and quickly approached her to strike up a conversation. Unexpectedly, the woman directly handed him a business card. He initially thought he had found love, but it turned out to be a transaction. In the past, he wouldn't have dared to dream of being with such a beautiful woman, but now, with his recent lottery win of $2 billion, she seemed like a drizzle to him. He hadn't told his wife about the lottery win yet. She had previously left him, citing his poverty as the reason, and they were currently going through divorce proceedings. However, his financial advisor told him that if his wife found out, he would have to give her at least $1 billion. Therefore, Sandy made up his mind to pretend to be poor, but it was difficult to hold on to so much money without spending it, and it was causing him great discomfort. Eventually, he couldn't resist and went shopping at a high-end mall. He bought himself a precious watch and splurged on clothes and shoes inside the mall. When he looked at himself in the mirror again, he didn't even recognize the man looking back at him. After returning home, he immediately hid all the branded items he bought in the warehouse. As for the high-end wine and ham that couldn't be hidden, he replaced their packaging with discounted supermarket labels. With everything in disguise, he could finally enjoy without worry. He couldn't wait to taste a bite of the 82-can caviar. The taste of the wealthy was irresistible to him. Excited, his limbs danced uncontrollably. Just as he was in the midst of this, his wife returned home. Without thinking twice, Sandy quickly removed all his disguises, leaving himself completely naked. His wife was astonished to see him letting loose like this. "Is this how you're living now?" she exclaimed. Sandy's wife introduced him to a job at the supermarket. Reluctantly, Sandy agreed to take the job to avoid raising suspicion. However, to his surprise, the owner of the supermarket turned out to be his wife's illicit lover. Every day at work, he had to endure the boss's mockery and ridicule, and then witness their affectionate gestures in front of him after work. As a billionaire, Sandy felt extremely stifled and frustrated. Unable to bear it any longer, one day, when the two of them left, Sandy picked up a potted plant and smashed it towards the lover's car. Although he missed the target, it was a release of the pent-up frustration he had been feeling. From that day on, Sandy lived a double life, pretending to be poor during the day at work and enjoying a luxurious lifestyle at five-star hotels at night. The joy of newfound wealth was that simple. However, no matter how well he disguised himself, there would inevitably be moments when his true identity would be revealed. One day, as Sandy returned home, he found his in-laws unexpectedly visiting. To serve them, his wife brought out a bottle of wine, which happened to be the high-end wine he had secretly hidden away. Sandy couldn't help but cringe as he watched. He quickly urged his wife to replace it with a better bottle, but to his dismay, his father-in-law remarked, "How much better can it get?" He took a sip and was astonished to find that it tasted exactly like the wine he had enjoyed at a high-end banquet over a decade ago. His wife, seeing her father's delight, proudly informed him that it was a cheap wine, only 5 bottles for $10 at the supermarket. If he liked it, he could take a few bottles home. Sandy felt a tightness in his chest and shortness of breath. To salvage some of his losses, he reluctantly drank a little more. However, as his father-in-law helped pour the wine, Sandy accidentally revealed his valuable wristwatch. His father-in-law, with sharp eyes, instantly grabbed it, frightening Sandy. In a panic, he quickly claimed that it was a $10 watch he had bought from a street vendor. Surprisingly, his father-in-law was even more delighted and handed him $100, asking him to buy 10 more watches as gifts. Sandy couldn't stomach the meal anymore and just wanted to escape. Unfortunately, his phone started ringing. He didn't dare to answer, as it would expose his wealth. He also couldn't just leave abruptly because his phone had the number 8848, and if he moved more than 10 meters away from it, it would automatically explode. Sandy was sweating profusely, seeing everyone's curious gazes. Sandy had a brilliant idea. He revealed the news of his impending divorce to his in-laws, shocking them. This also angered his wife, but Sandy didn't care. Indeed, since they were on the verge of getting a divorce, Sandy didn't see the need to worry about such matters anymore. That day, Sandy and his financial advisor were playing golf on the course when they unexpectedly ran into the supermarket owner. The advisor informed Sandy that the supermarket owner was facing trouble and was seeking loans everywhere. planning to sell the supermarket and lay off all the workers. Sandy immediately decided to share this news with his wife, but to his surprise, he bumped into his father-in-law right there. His father-in-law bought all the discounted red wine in the supermarket and showed Sandy a watch he liked. Even though Sandy repeatedly mentioned that the watch was sold out, his father-in-law still handed him €50 and asked him to try and find 5 more. After sending his father-in-law away, Sandy told his wife about the owner's predicament. However, his wife, believing that Sandy was intentionally trying to harm her, fired him using her authority as a manager. Although theoretically he should have felt relieved without the constraints of his wife, Sandy felt a sense of loss in his heart. As he passed by a small restaurant where he used to hang out and drink with his buddies, he saw them laughing and toasting each other, and he couldn't help but feel a tinge of envy. They used to be on the same path. Back when they were poor and couldn't afford gasoline, Pedro, who worked at the gas station, would discreetly help him out, and Mario would tell him jokes to cheer him up when he was feeling down. They may have been poor, but they were genuinely happy. However, after becoming wealthy, Sandy started deliberately avoiding them on the streets, and the distance between them grew. His days became increasingly lonely. If the cost of being rich is losing family and friends, then what is the true meaning of wealth? As he pondered over this, Sandy suddenly came up with a bold plan. Since he couldn't become poor again, why not help his buddies become rich so they could be together again? Without hesitation, he immediately called his advisor to discuss strategies. The next day, Pedro was at work when suddenly a beautiful woman rolled down her car window and said, "Young man, I can see you have an amazing physique and a perfectly balanced body. You look like a great fit for modeling. I have an endorsement deal worth €8 million. Are you interested?" At the same time, Mario, who was at home taking care of the kids, also received good news. His mother's cousin's sister-in-law's aunt passed away, leaving him an inheritance of €8 million. Overnight, the two brothers became rich. They immediately bought a $1 million luxury car and took Sandy for a joyride. Seeing his friends recklessly squandering their newfound wealth, Sandy felt a pang of sorrow. He tried to persuade them to use the money for more meaningful purposes. However, his wealthy friends, consumed by their newfound values, only cared about material wealth. They accused Sandy of jealousy and scolded him, saying that if he didn't spend his money, he shouldn't meddle in their affairs. Sandy had hoped to maintain his friendship with them as an ordinary person, but instead, he faced alienation. He realized that being a billionaire had changed everything. Determined to show them his true power, Sandy arranged for them to witness his capabilities. The next day, Sandy's wife received a phone call informing her that the supermarket was going to close down. Sandy immediately saw this as an opportunity to seek revenge. He was willing to expose his status as a wealthy individual in order to have his advisor buy the supermarket. In front of his wife, he fired his mistress. Feeling relieved and gratified, Sandy sent divorce papers to his wife, along with a compensation of €1 billion for their 9 years of impoverished life together. He planned to travel abroad and enjoy his life to the fullest now that he was rich. However, when his wife learned the truth, she was not pleased. She chased after Sandy at the airport and stopped him, questioning his soul. She argued that if he could give me €1 billion in a divorce, then staying together could mean even more applause. Clearly, Sandy accepted her proposal, and they reconciled on the spot. From that moment on, they lived a shameless and carefree life together.